right, so we have a special guest with us today. This is Reda. Oh, Sandy, yeah, Sandy too. Reda is one of our own, and he is a new author. He just wrote his first book. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So he's here for our lunch time to just give you a little bit about his book. He has it here with him. So I'm going to hand it over to Reda.
Thank you. Thanks, Alicia. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Reda Migeed, and I live in Springfield here. And most of you know me. I come here and play pool, and I had lunch many times with everybody. And a year ago, almost a year ago, at Hampden Senior Center, they offered a writing class, and the lady who gave the class was from Sturbridge, Bobby, and I mentioned her and thanked her in my book. It was my first writing class, and it was a memoir class. Gave us handouts and louder, and it was really a great new experience for me, and that's why I'm here today to share what inspired me, how this started, and explain what I wrote about. When I started before the class, it was mostly like fiction kind, didn't want to mention real names and real everything, but during the class encouraged me to talk about my feelings, otherwise it wouldn't work. And once I start mentioning real names and feelings and how I grew up and how my life was in Egypt, some tears sometimes come, sometimes happiness, some laughs, Then we used to share what we wrote. We met every Wednesday for a couple hours in the center for several weeks. By the end of the class, I really had a book. So I continued to work on it, and she kept in touch and encouraging me to write more details about this, more details about that. I didn't like religion and politics. And I've been here for about 33 years, and my wife keeps telling me, if you want to get along with everybody, don't talk about religion and politics. She's Catholic. From the beginning, my kids were Catholic. She said, they have to be Catholic. I said, yeah, I'm ready. So I've been sharing the Catholic faith with them, go to church with them. And I also watch Joel Osteen on Sundays sometimes. He just gives you that good feeling, make you feel good. So I grew up in Egypt in a small village named Kafr Nafra, in the middle of nowhere. Yes, it is north of Cairo in the Delta, but no paved roads around it. We have to walk a mile to get to the paved road and take a bus or a taxi to wherever you go. No electricity, so you can imagine how life was really difficult life. No water, tap water, we have to have the pump, and my parents and us, when we started growing up little, used to just have the pump right in front of the house, manual pump. And all this didn't bother me. I really didn't. When you grow up in a situation like that, you think the whole world's like that. Till you go to the city, then you realize, wow, they have a switch. You can just turn the electricity and have all this light with turning a switch. That was amazing. It was a first time to go to the city. When I actually got ready for elementary school, my father took me. And first time to see the stores, all the technology, all the new things that didn't realize it is there. But then it opens your mind to really, you learn more and more, and you want to experience more and ask questions. And so in the village, we had only 2 elementary schools, one for boys, one for girls. My father was elementary school teacher, mathematics teacher. And it is interesting to, with all these differences between here and there, there's also a lot of common things. Everybody wants to have family, everybody wants to have kids, everybody wants the best for their kids. My parents met by arranged marriage. It's very common over there. Her brother was a teacher of my uncle, so my uncle knew my father, and some other teachers worked there too, married my aunts. So that's how my father met my wife, or knew about my wife, through his colleagues and my uncle. And a lot of people in his age also, they had more difficult life than we had. They had to, after elementary school, they had to go to a city to attend middle school, then high school. We were more lucky that they had another middle school next village. They had a high school in a city not far from us, but we had to have a bike. So here, when I came in here, all kids have bikes. My kids have bikes. I taught them how to ride a bike in Forest Park. Over there, the bike is not for fun. It was not really there, not easy to have a bike till you get older, and then you need to learn and buy one. You can rent, but to learn, but that's how people use bikes over there back then. Of course, now when I go to visit, there's a lot of different technology and changes, and the village is not village anymore. They build a lot of, they have more schools, middle school, high school, paved roads, electricity. We had electricity my last year of high school. That's when we got the electricity. And it's, of course, since then, TVs and everything, and computers, and now Facebook is great. I talk to them on Facebook. I keep in touch to just know how is everybody doing. So my book, I put on the cover my wife and myself, my wife with my older son Joey on a camel by the pyramids, and on the back of the cover a little bit about the book, and also my picture with my wife in our wedding. My book name is Fate and Choices, No Regrets. So I felt that everything happened by fate. We have fate. Sometimes we choose our fate, and sometimes we refuse our fate, and sometimes the fate chooses us. So when I met my wife, I had no idea. It just happened and just clicked right away, and my life changed forever. We had a lot of choices, good and bad. We all had. And I used to have regrets. I wish I did this. I wish I never came here. I wish I did. And until, I will say, until I start watching Joel Osteen. That's why I like him. You don't need to have regrets anymore. You need to accept what happened. You need to have peace with yourself. And this was really a lot of help for me. When I had bad day, I go to my garden. It's just, my house have roses and flowers all around it, between the neighbors and then all the way in the back. It happened over 30 years, little by little. Every time I'm stressed, that's why I thank my garden for all the help I got. At the table of contents, I talked about my middle school years, high school years, college years. First time I went shopping with my dad to the city, college years. Then when JFK was assassinated, everybody knew where you were and what exactly, you remember it as if it was yesterday. So growing up, my childhood hero was President Nasser. Not everybody liked him, but a lot of people love him. And for us, as children, he changed the history of the country. He was actually the first Egyptian president in modern history. They been through a lot of history, from ancient history, then Cleopatra, then all different things, English and French occupation, and Nasser changed a lot of changes. Then when he died, it was a shock for everybody, so I had a chapter about that, to just explain my feelings and how the country reacted to that. Then my grandfather died of a heart attack, and my editor said, you need to explain the Muslims' burial. How did they do it? How Muslims bury their dead? And the emotions, the feelings. I never thought about it, but when I wrote it, I really was in tears. When I even read it in class, the tears came out. It wasn't that easy. Then after a while, I felt like writing give you power. Writing make you more mature. You see things that you didn't see before. You trigger your memories, you squeeze, you want to get everything, then you can delete it later. Or you don't have to even publish it, or you can tear it away and throw it in the trash. When my sister passed away in a car accident, I couldn't even cry, I couldn't go, I'm here. And she has kids. I was so sad, and I was talking to somebody I work with, and he said, write her a letter. I said, what do you mean, write her a letter? He said, write it and don't send it, just keep it or tear it pieces and throw it in the trash, but start with that. And this when it took me 2 weeks. I wanted to cry and sad, but when you wrote the letter, I wrote the letter, then it was a closure. So it's hard to explain the power of writing until you start writing. My parents struggled to have children, and arranged marriage was a common. I put my experience with arranged marriage myself, and when I worked, my first job was a physician in Aswan city, where the high dam is, south of Egypt. Nice general hospital, and visited all the ancient Karnak and Luxor and Aswan and Abu Simbel. I've been there. So I wanted to share this. So my editor said, put it as an appendix. So appendix 1 at the end of the book. I shared a lot of my ancient Egyptian history. I put some pictures of my wife and family there. Then another chapter about my life in America, how I came to America, how I met my wife, how things work out. And I talked about my heroes in life. I end the book with an epilogue about my lifetime heroes, from childhood heroes to adulthood heroes, my mom. My mom is the first hero, but you don't say, oh, my first or second. You just write about your heroes. And when I wrote about my mom, I can't believe how good she was and how hard work she did. I wrote like 3 pages and just kept writing and writing, and I actually called them and wanted my brothers to read it to her. My mom doesn't read or write, and doesn't read or write Arabic, never mind English. So they read it to her, and I did too over the phone. And I felt like my mom had too many hands. Soft hands. When we were sick, she will just put her back of her hand on our forehead to see if we have a fever. My father will take us to the doctor, but she will take good care of us. I have 4 brothers and 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and they all have kids. My mother has about 34 grandchildren and 14 great-grandchildren. I still go to visit my mom. I go by myself. Last time we went together was 1998. My family, my wife and kids. After September 11, they didn't want to go. And for 12 years, I didn't go either. When I went 2011 by myself to see my mom, they told me you better come because she's not feeling good. The country changed. I couldn't recognize my nephews and nieces because last time I saw them, they were babies, then new ones. Everybody knows me, but I don't know anybody. The country was not the same. A lot of advancement, a lot of changes, no villages anymore. And the transportation was great, and it felt great. Sandy read my book, Sandy Smith, and she said to me, it feels like you blame God all the time about everything. It's the people. Well, it is both. I mean, I went to Bible study with my wife, and years ago, many years ago, when I was getting into the Catholic faith, and they keep telling me, how do you know that? Because I knew when they talk about something, I'm aware of it, I know what it is. Then they said to me, how do you know, including my wife? I said, it's the same thing in Quran, we studied it. We learned about all this in school. And you have no choice. They teach religion in school. It is part of the Arabic language as a main subject and also as a separate subject. So you by high school, you learned a lot. You memorize a lot. You have to memorize verses, and so it's the same, everything very similar. I don't know what we fight about, and craziness, and the more you open your mind, the more you think Abraham, the grandfather of all, and all the cousins are just not happy with each other. So I expanded about this also in the book. It's not that I really wanted to, but my editor wanted to know more about my holidays, my growing up with all these Muslims holidays. So I explained all that in the book. Then the names are another thing. In Quran, God has 99 names. So I made a schedule myself about 99 names of Allah, al-Asma al-Husna in Arabic. And all of them in Arabic and translation in English And that's why you see a lot of Abdul. Abdul Jabbar is, Abdul is a servant, and Jabbar one of those 99 names. So they say in Middle East and Islamic words, half of the names are Muhammad, the other names are Ali, and the rest is Abdul. So that explains why they feel like it's a blessing to have those certain names, like John, very common. John in Christian names, the most common names. So there is a lot of similarity in cultures and some other big differences also in cultures. So by living here, you can see it more. When I go back, I feel like I went like 100 years backward, minimum, maybe more than 100 years backward. And when I came first time, I had culture shock. It wasn't easy. I was lucky that I met my wife. It made everything easier. But when I go back, I don't really want to go back. I go back to see my mother. That's my main reason to travel. But yeah, I talked about my grandfather's funeral and burial. I talked about vacation in Alexandria, my first vacation after elementary school. And I have aunts and visited. Usually you stay with the family. And I talked about Cairo and the Cairo Tower. Really beautiful. You see the whole city, or a lot of it, from the tower, similar to Eiffel Tower. I talked about my work years in Aswan High Dam and Abu Simbel temples. I think I covered everything. I have some pictures about my wife and family. The pictures came out good. I thought they told me it wouldn't come out good in the paper. It is in Kindle, it's colored, but a lot of good pictures. And it was a great experience. It is good to write. If you take one thing from this talk today, if anyone wanna start writing, write it. It may be difficult at the beginning, but when you write it, you don't have to even share it, but you can share it, will be better. You have friends. There's a lot of groups, if you're interested in writing, in libraries and in different senior centers, and it is great to write. So my book is here if anyone wants to come closer and look at it, and I'll take more questions and talk to you about it. Thank you very much.